What local legend or urban myth is your town or city known for? I'm not sure if it classifies as an urban legend as such, but anyway. The majority of my state truly believes an animal officially declared extinct still roams around in various parts, and sightings are still often reported. There is also some secrecy among small communities and locals who have had sightings or encounters with the animal. Yes, I live in Tasmania, and it's the Tasmanian tiger thylacine. Supposedly in the 1800s, a young boy was separated from his family's caravan as they tried to escape the flooding creek. The boy stayed in the woods along the creek and became a hermit who would scare off any travelers who entered his domain. Eventually he got himself trampled by horses, and now the ghost of the hairy man haunts the area that Hairy Man Road now runs through. State: Pope Lick Monster, Fisherville, Kentucky. County: Crybaby Bridge, where a mom in the 70s threw two kids off a bridge for crying, and now if you go alone at night you can still hear them crying. House: we think there's a fucking rabid badger in the basement, but no one wants to check. In Ireland, we have the urban legend of the Banshee, an old lady who can be heard screaming in the woods. If you hear the Banshee wailing, someone you know will die. If you see a Banshee, it's too late. St. Leonard's Forest, near Horsham, West Sussex in the UK, has lots of stories surrounding it. My favorite is about the Mick Miles race. The story goes a local man called Mick Miles was challenged by the devil to race for his soul in St. Leonard's Forest. The pair raced so fast they burned a track through the forest where, to this day, no trees grow. You can visit the spot. It's a popular walking route and a neat story for the area. Some people also claim to have seen a headless horseman at night on this forest stretch. In Paducah, Kauai, there is a legend that nearby in the Kauai Dam, there are catfish as big as VW bugs. Story goes that divers doing work down there swore to never go back down again. Emperor Norton was some wacky dude who had gotten rich off of speculation during the gold rush in San Francisco, and then lost all of his money. He snapped and declared himself Emperor of the US, and I guess he became a popular local celebrity zany character. We still have people dress up like him at local events, like when the bridge reopened after Loma Prieta. Our biggest local legend is Snoop Dogg. I live next town over from the Amityville whorehouse. My town is now known for the Gilgo Beach Killer. I live 1 block over and 3 blocks down from him. My son went to school with his daughter. It was so creepy when they arrested him. The ghost of Proctor Park. Local legend had it that there was an armed robbery suspect who fled the scene, and the police finally cornered him in front of a concrete wall at Proctor Park. He raised his gun and police shot him, and he slammed up against the wall and died. On certain nights, you could look at the wall where he had been killed. You could see his silhouette on the wall. It was known as the ghost of Proctor Park. After hearing the story from a coworker, my friends and I drove over to the park one night and we saw the haunted silhouette on the wall. We all panicked in terror and fled the scene, hoping that the ghost would not follow us. A few days later, the guy who told the story drove us back to Proctor Park during daytime. When we got to the wall, the ghost was still there, because it was a spray-painted silhouette on the concrete wall. My small southern city I live in was raided one time during the Civil War, and OMG, you'd think General Sherman burned it to the ground like Atlanta got burned. The horror and the suffering the frightened townspeople went through as the dastardly Yankees raided the city, stealing and robbing. The real story, because I researched it, is that there were black Union troops guarding the railroad here from being taken over by the Confederates. The black Union troops were outmanned and nearly had to retreat until another contingent of a black unit of the Union Army routed the Confederates and ran General Nathan Bedford Forrest off. None. The Lake Worth monster is real. Crybaby Bridge. Small town, USA. In Smyrna, Georgia, there's a covered bridge that is supposedly haunted by water babies after a bus crash years ago. And if you stop your car underneath the bridge at night, turn your lights off, and leave chocolate on top of your car, you will see chocolate hand and footprints all over your car when the lights come back on. There's a legend around where I live about the Bunnyman, an escaped mental patient who hung people off a bridge and wore a bloody patchwork suit of rabbit skins. Of course, it has no evidence or historical backing at all. My town has this wild story about a ghost that haunts the old library. They say if you listen close you can hear her shushing people. Spooky. I'm from New Orleans. Sioux ghosts, vamps, voodoo. Oh my. For a while we had a lot of people going missing while walking on the riverbank near the town proper. Logic says people fell into the river and got swept away. 1 or 2 people drowned in the river per year. However, some people really ran with it and said some forest cult in the woods was capturing people to use in sacrifices. Didn't help that deep in the surrounding woods there were a few abandoned clusters of houses that some people did use for pagan rituals, and there was at least one cult of sorts that was well known locally. A local drive-in movie theater still operating to this day had its screen destroyed by a tornado while people were watching the movie Twister. It is true that a tornado destroyed one of the screens at the theater, and it's also true that the movie playing on that screen that night was going to be Twister. But what's not true is that it happened during the actual showing of the movie. It happened during the day, maybe around 3 in the afternoon, so it would have been too early to show any movie there. City I grew up in a city that was supposed to Miss Lee Silo just out of town. Everyone always talk about the Satanists that gather their sacrifice animals to Satan. Yes, this was the 80s. As far as I know, then only close to that was an old decommissioned arsenal that the government kept everyone away from. Yeah, dumb bored teens, we drive all over and never found a silo.